What if the only person who noticed your pain was the one the world ignored? In a city built on wealth and power, a silent bond between a forgotten child and a struggling waitress would spark a chain of events no one could have seen coming. What if the only person who saw your pain was the one the world never looked at? The room glowed with golden chandeliers, polished marble floors catching the reflections of candlelit tables. Laughter spilled from the wealthy, echoing off the crystal glasses and fine china. In the heart of the room stood Evelyn Moore, balancing a tray of hors d'oeuvres with one hand and brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear with the other. At 29, Evelyn was no stranger to these extravagant charity galas, though not as a guest. She was a server, a shadow among the shining dot. Every step she took was calculated, careful, practiced. Her black shoes pinched, and her calves ached from the 9 hours she had already worked, but her posture never faltered. She couldn't afford to let it. People here didn't see servers. They saw uniforms, but Evelyn saw everything. She'd learned to observe closely growing up in the foster care system, where small details determined who to trust and who to avoid. Life had taught her early that survival depended on silence, awareness, and resilience. That same resilience carried her now, helping her balance the demands of double shifts while studying part-time in the evenings. Her dream was simple: to become a physical therapist and give her younger brother her whole world a better life. She passed a corner table draped in white linen and frozen smiles. Guests laughed too loud, complimented too generously, the usual masks. But then Evelyn's steps slowed. There, at the end of a long banquet table, sat a young girl. Alone, unmoving, almost invisible. She was small, no older than 9, with long brown hair braided neatly down one shoulder. Her dress was clearly expensive, satin and pearls sewn into every fold, but her eyes didn't match. They were vacant, not the distracted gaze of a bored child, but the hollow stare of someone who had learned not to expect kindness. Her legs were bound in braces, her arms resting limply at her sides. Her wheelchair had been carefully positioned slightly away from the rest of the table, as if she were an afterthought, a misplaced item at a well-decorated party. Evelyn felt a weight settle in her chest. Behind the girl, at the head of the table, sat Cassandra Hartley, the socialite billionaire known for her beauty, designer brands, and carefully curated charity work. Cassandra's photos often filled the society pages. Sparkling gowns, champagne flutes, and the headline philanthropist with a heart of gold. Beside her, a tall man in a navy suit leaned in close, whispering something into her ear that made her laugh in a high, polished tone. Not once did either of them glance at the girl. Evelyn turned away, only to glance back again. Something in the girl's stillness kept tugging at her. She brought a glass of sparkling water over and gently placed it in front of the child. "Would you like something else to drink, sweetheart?" Evelyn asked quietly, kneeling a bit to meet her eye. The girl didn't respond. Her eyes flicked toward Evelyn, barely, then dropped again. She gave a nearly imperceptible shake of the head. "Okay," Evelyn said softly. "If you change your mind, I'll be nearby." She stood up and moved on, but her thoughts didn't follow. Later, while clearing plates, she overheard a few whispered words that made her pause. "She's Cassandra's stepdaughter," one server murmured behind the curtain, separating the kitchen from the ballroom. "Adopted after her husband passed. Poor girl was in a car accident, lost her parents, her legs, and probably her spirit too." Evelyn's chest tightened. "She doesn't speak much. Cassandra barely acknowledges her. Some say she's more of a prop than a child, something to show off when the press asks about her family values. A child in a wheelchair, silent, forgotten, paraded when convenient, ignored when not." That night, as the gala wound down, and the guests returned to their penthouses and limousines, Evelyn remained to clean. She scrubbed dishes until her fingers wrinkled, and the world outside turned black and silent. But in her mind, the girl's quiet eyes kept returning. She didn't know why it bothered her so deeply. Maybe because it was too familiar. Maybe because Evelyn had once been that girl, silent, watching, hoping someone would care enough to ask if she was okay. The next night, Evelyn's shift changed. The restaurant attached to the hotel was busy, and she was assigned to serve room 514's dinner upstairs. She knocked softly, tray in hand, and waited. When the door opened, her breath caught for a moment. It was Cassandra Hartley. "Room service," Evelyn said with practiced calm. Cassandra barely nodded. Just leave it by the window. Evelyn stepped inside. Her eyes scanned the room briefly. There, near the corner, beside the floor-length curtains, sat the girl again, still in her wheelchair, wearing pajamas that looked untouched by comfort. Her hair had not been brushed since yesterday. Her dinner plate sat untouched on a tray beside her dot. Evelyn hesitated, then knelt slightly beside the tray. "Would you like help eating?" she asked gently. The girl didn't look up, but this time there was a flicker, a twitch at the corner of her mouth, as if the idea itself was unfamiliar. Evelyn waited, patiently, quietly. Quietly, the girl whispered, so faintly, Evelyn almost missed it. "Thank you." It was one word, but it cracked something open. From that moment on, Evelyn couldn't unsee her. The girl's name was Lily, and slowly, over the next few weeks, Evelyn learned her rhythms. When she was most alert, when she needed help, when she just needed someone to sit in silence. Cassandra never noticed or pretended not to. She came and went from galas, spa appointments, and business meetings, always in heels and tailored suits. But she rarely looked at Lily, and Lily rarely spoke of her. One rainy afternoon, Evelyn brought books from the library. Lily's eyes lit up. They read together in the quiet, Evelyn's soft voice filling the empty space like music. Lily's smile, when it finally came, was shy and small, but it was real. "Why do you help me?" Lily asked one evening. Evelyn smiled, tucking the blanket more tightly around her. "Because someone once helped me when no one else would." She didn't say more. Lily didn't ask, but across the city, storms were brewing. Cassandra was preparing for another high-profile event. She had plans, big plans, and Evelyn was about to be caught in them, unwilling, uninvited, and unprepared. And Lily was about to face a choice no child should ever have to make, because when wealth hides cruelty and silence becomes survival, it only takes one brave heart to speak, and sometimes that heart belongs to the one nobody ever noticed. The rain hadn't let up for 3 days. A fine, cold mist hovered over the city, cloaking the streets in silver. Pedestrians moved quickly, umbrellas tilted against the wind, while luxury cars hummed past puddles without pause. In the towering glass hotel, where silence was curated and luxury expected, Evelyn Moore stood outside room 514, with a book tucked under her apron and nerves tingling in her chest. Lily hadn't spoken much the last few days. Her rare smiles, the short sentences had slowly withered into silence again. Something had changed. Evelyn had seen it in the stiffness of her posture, the way her eyes no longer met hers, the tension in her tiny hands. It wasn't regression, it was fear. She knocked lightly. No answer. After a moment, she opened the door with her service key. Cassandra had requested daily meal service, and Evelyn, under the pretense of delivering lunch, had kept her quiet visits going. But the moment she stepped inside, she knew something was wrong. Lily wasn't in her usual spot by the window. The wheelchair was parked neatly, untouched. Her lunch tray from the morning remained on the side table, untouched. Panic flickered in Evelyn's chest. "Lily," she called out gently, setting the tray down and moving farther into the suite. Then she heard it, a faint sound, barely louder than a whisper. From the bathroom, she crossed the plush carpet quickly, heart thudding. The bathroom door was ajar, and inside, Lily sat curled on the tile floor, her legs stiff, arms wrapped around herself. She wasn't crying, but the expression on her face, the pure, frozen stillness of it, was enough to send a chill through Evelyn's bones. She knelt without a word, gently gathering Lily into her arms. The child didn't resist. She didn't speak. She just rested her head against Evelyn's chest and let herself be held. It took several minutes before Evelyn spoke. Did something happen? A pause. Then, quietly, she said, "I embarrass her." Evelyn didn't need to ask who she was. She said, "I shouldn't be seen, that I ruin her image." Evelyn's jaw tightened. The words stung, not just for Lily, but for herself. Memories of foster homes, where silence was demanded, where she was told to be invisible, to not ask, to not need. But Evelyn wasn't that girl anymore, and Lily didn't deserve to become her. "She's wrong," Evelyn said softly but firmly. "You are not an embarrassment. You are brave and kind and strong, and no one gets to tell you otherwise." Lily didn't answer, but her grip on Evelyn's sleeve tightened slightly. Later that evening, Evelyn clocked out early and returned to the hotel not as a server, but as a guest. It had taken all her savings to book a single night in the cheapest room, but she needed to be close. Something was wrong, and her instincts were screaming louder than ever. Down in the lobby, she overheard part of a conversation to hotel employees whispering near the elevators. "She's traveling tomorrow. The stepmother. Private flight." She requested staff pack up the girl's belongings, said she wouldn't be taking her. Evelyn froze. Not taking her? One asked, confused. Apparently sending her to some facility across the state. Private care home. Said it's better for her image. Can you believe that? The words struck Evelyn like ice water. A facility. For Lily. She rushed outside, her phone already in hand. She called every number she could think of: city services, child protection, even a former foster care advocate who once helped her brother get access to a speech therapist. No one answered right away. The clock was ticking. By morning, Evelyn was back in uniform, waiting in the hotel hallway near the suite. She didn't knock this time. She watched from a distance, standing beside a housekeeping cart, pretending to check her clipboard. Two men in suits exited the room. One carried Lily's suitcase, the other pushed the wheelchair, but it wasn't Cassandra who walked out behind them. It was a woman Evelyn didn't recognize, lightly older, with clipped hair and a clipboard. She looked like a nurse or a caseworker. She was talking on her phone, voice sharp and impersonal. "No, the guardian isn't present. She signed the waiver earlier this morning. Yes, we'll have her delivered by noon." She sedated, lightly, traveling with a medical escort. Lily wasn't even conscious. Evelyn's hands curled into fists. This wasn't right. Nothing about this was right. She followed, cautiously, staying a few steps behind as they made their way to the service elevator. Just before they entered, the nurse glanced away to speak with someone at the desk. It was a moment, barely 5 seconds, but it was enough. Evelyn moved quickly. She approached the wheelchair, gently placing a hand on Lily's shoulder. The child stirred faintly. "Lily," she whispered, heart pounding. "Can you hear me?" Lily's eyes fluttered open, glassy and dazed. "Don't be afraid," Evelyn said. "I won't let them take you. I promise." The nurse turned then. "Excuse me, staff are not allowed to," but Evelyn stood firm. "She knows me. She trusts me. You're taking her without her consent or understanding. She's not luggage. She's a child." The nurse's voice hardened. "This is official transport. You'll need to step back, miss." Before Evelyn could argue, a voice rang out from across the lobby. "What is going on here, Cassandra?" She stepped into the hallway, sunglasses perched atop her head, designer coat fluttering behind her. Evelyn turned to face her. She was going to be taken without even waking up. Evelyn said, voice calm but fierce, "She doesn't understand what's happening, and I don't think you care." Cassandra raised a brow. "You're just a waitress. This isn't your concern." Evelyn's heart pounded. Maybe not, but someone has to make it their concern. Security arrived moments later. Hotel staff surrounded them, unsure who to listen to. Cassandra gestured to them. "She's interfering with medical arrangements. Remove her." But then Lily spoke. "Don't let them take me," she said, her voice thin but clear. Everything froze. The nurse turned. Cassandra blinked. Even the security guards paused. "I want to stay with her," Lily whispered, pointing to Evelyn. The silence that followed was deafening, and in that silence, Evelyn knew this wasn't just a job anymore. It never had been. Because sometimes, it's not blood that makes you family. It's who shows up when the world turns its back. And Evelyn was ready to fight for Lily, with everything she had, even if it meant risking everything she had left. What would you do if the only person who made you feel safe was being taken away and the ones meant to protect you stood by and watched? That question lingered in Evelyn's mind like a storm cloud as she sat on the edge of the uncomfortable bench outside the Child Protective Services office. It had been over 3 hours since she was escorted from the hotel by security. Lily wheeled away in the opposite direction. No hand to hold, no explanation, just silence. The moment Lily said, "I want to stay with her," the hotel lobby froze. It was a single sentence from a child who rarely spoke, but it cut through wealth, status, and power like a lightning bolt. Cassandra had faltered for a second, visibly rattled, before slipping back into her practiced smile and cool tone. She told the staff she'd review the arrangement, then disappeared into the elevator, leaving the matter in the hands of her private assistant and legal advisor. Evelyn had refused to leave. She followed the transport team to the elevator, down to the basement garage, and all the way to the sleek black van waiting outside. That's when the nurse made the call that led to all of this child services. Because Evelyn had intervened. Because Lily had spoken, and now Evelyn was sitting alone on this bench, clutching her tote bag like it could anchor her to the floor. Her palms were sweaty, her stomach twisting. She wasn't Lily's guardian, she wasn't family, she was a waitress, and yet she was the only one Lily had asked for. The door across the hall finally opened, and a woman in her early 40s stepped out. Her name was Denise Mercer, social worker, middle tier, tired eyes, clipped tone. She glanced at a folder, then at Evelyn. "You're Evelyn Moore." Evelyn stood quickly. "Yes, is Lily okay?" "She's resting. We've placed her under temporary protective observation until we sort out the legal guardianship issues. Please, let me see her." Denise raised an eyebrow. "You're not a relative. You're not registered with the department. The only reason you're even here is because of the scene at the hotel." "I didn't cause a scene," Evelyn said, trying to keep her voice calm. "I stopped something that didn't feel right. She was being taken away against her will. She's terrified, and you are." Evelyn hesitated, then took a breath. "I'm someone who noticed her when no one else did. I'm someone she trusts. And right now, that might matter more than paperwork." Denise studied her for a long moment. "You know what you're saying carries consequences?" she asked. "If you're wrong, if this becomes a legal matter, you'll be dragged through courtrooms, scrutinized by attorneys, investigated." "I understand," Evelyn said quietly, "but I can't walk away." Denise gave a small nod. "I'll give you 10 minutes, supervised. No promises about anything beyond that." Evelyn followed her down the hallway, through a maze of beige walls and fluorescent lights, to a quiet room with a single window. Lily sat in a chair, her wheelchair nearby. She looked smaller than ever, her legs swinging slightly, her gaze fixed on a coloring book she hadn't touched. When she saw Evelyn, her expression changed, not quite a smile, but something close, a recognition, a relief. Evelyn knelt beside her. "Hey sweetheart, I've been trying to get back to you." "I was scared," Lily whispered. "I know, I was too, but you were so brave today. What you said, it changed everything. They said I have to go to a place where people take care of kids like me." Evelyn's throat tightened. "Did they ask what you wanted?" Lily shook her head. "Well," Evelyn said, taking her hand gently, "I'm going to make sure your voice is heard this time." The 10 minutes passed too fast. When Evelyn stood to leave, Lily's fingers clung to her sleeve. "Will you come back?" "I'll come back every day until they let me take you home," Evelyn promised. But even as she said it, she knew what she was up against. Back at her apartment that night, she dug out every document she owned: tax records, work history, school, enrollment, her own file from foster care. She called her brother's old caseworker, who remembered her. She filed an emergency appeal for guardianship, not as a relative, but as a suitable individual with an existing bond. It was a legal long shot, but it was something. The next morning, a news article began circulating. Billionaire socialite, accused of abandoning stepdaughter. It had a grainy photo from the hotel lobby: Lily's wheelchair, Evelyn kneeling beside her, Cassandra looking away. The public wasn't kind. Comments poured in. Strangers demanded answers. Cassandra's PR team scrambled, releasing vague statements about misunderstandings and deep personal decisions made with love and care. But the damage was done. Her carefully constructed image of compassion had cracked. Evelyn didn't care about any of that. All she cared about was the court hearing scheduled in 3 days. She wasn't ready. She didn't have a lawyer. Her income was barely enough for rent. But she had something stronger than evidence: truth. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. But there was one more surprise waiting. The night before the hearing, Evelyn received a phone call from a blocked number. "Is this Evelyn Moore?" a woman asked. "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Dana Carter. I'm Lily's aunt, her mother's sister. I've been looking for her for years. I didn't even know she was alive." Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. "Please," Dana said, her voice trembling. "Can you meet me?" Because the truth about Lily's past was deeper and more dangerous than Evelyn ever imagined. And the next chapter would test everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and what it truly means to fight for someone. What if everything you believed about a child's abandonment wasn't just heartbreaking but part of a deeper betrayal? That's the question Evelyn couldn't shake as she sat across from Dana Carter at a quiet corner booth in a downtown cafe, the air between them heavy with things unsaid. The woman across from her looked nothing like Cassandra Montgomery. Her hair was frizzy from the rain, her coat patched at the sleeves, but her eyes, those soft hazel eyes, were unmistakable. They were Lily's eyes. "I used to change her diapers," Dana whispered, hands trembling around her coffee cup. "Her laugh used to fill up the entire house. Then one day, my sister just vanished with her." Evelyn tried to keep her voice even. "You're saying Lily was taken?" Dana nodded slowly. "I was overseas on a humanitarian mission. When I came back, my sister had moved without a forwarding address. No records, no explanations. I searched for years, filed reports, hired private investigators. I didn't even know Cassandra had gotten custody of her until I saw the article this week." Evelyn's mind raced. "So you were never contacted about becoming Lily's guardian?" "No, I would have taken her in a heartbeat. I still will if that's what Lily wants." It hit Evelyn like a wave. This wasn't just a child lost in a cold system. This was a child stolen, hidden from the one person who might have truly loved her from the start. Evelyn looked down at her own hands. She wanted what was best for Lily, but now that meant stepping aside, didn't it? "I don't want to make this harder," Dana said softly. "From what I've read, and from what Lily said when we spoke briefly on the phone, she adores you, and I can see why." Evelyn blinked. "Wait, you spoke to her?" "Just for a minute. The social worker allowed it, after confirming my identity. She was hesitant at first, scared, but when I told her I used to sing to her when she had colic, she remembered." She cried. Evelyn's throat tightened. "She told me," Dana continued, her voice breaking, "that the only reason she's even standing today is because of you." And that's when Evelyn knew this wasn't a choice between them. It had to be a collaboration, because love, when real, doesn't compete, it multiplies. 3 days later, in a small courtroom painted in dull colors and outdated chairs, Evelyn stood beside Dana Carter. The judge looked surprised. Two guardians, not fighting but united. Dana explained her history, her heartbreak, her relentless search. Evelyn spoke next. Her voice was steady despite the emotion churning inside her. "I don't want custody out of pity or charity. I want what's best for Lily. She needs love, stability, and safety, and I believe together we can give her that." It wasn't a speech rehearsed in front of a mirror. It was raw truth, and it landed like thunder. The judge called for recess, and after deliberation, granted Dana temporary guardianship pending full verification, but also assigned Evelyn as a court-approved co-care provider, giving her legal right to stay in Lily's life. The relief was overwhelming but short-lived, because outside the courthouse, a black car was waiting. Victor Montgomery stepped out, tall, poised, dead calm. "I didn't come here to argue," he said smoothly. "I came to warn you." Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "Warn us." "Cassandra doesn't take humiliation lightly," he said, folding his hands in front of him. "And you've made her look very, very weak. She has connections, media, lawyers, people who make problems disappear." Dana stepped forward. "You helped her hide Lily. I did what was asked of me. I regret that now. But if you think this ends in court, you're mistaken." Evelyn met his gaze. "Then we'll keep fighting, as long as it takes." Victor looked at Lily, who now stood at the top of the courthouse steps beside a social worker, her eyes wide, but no longer afraid. "She's braver than either of you know," he murmured, "and she's going to need that bravery." He turned and walked away, disappearing into the car as quickly as he had arrived. That night, Evelyn, Dana, and Lily sat around a tiny kitchen table in Dana's apartment. It was nothing fancy, but for the first time, Lily reached out on her own. She took Evelyn's hand in one and Dana's in the other. "I want both of you," she said simply. "I want to be with people who see me." And in that fragile moment, they all realized family isn't built from bloodlines, it's built from choice. But as they began settling into this fragile new beginning, Evelyn couldn't shake a sense of unease, because Cassandra wasn't done, and the storm that was coming would test not just their love, but their courage. What happens when someone with unlimited resources decides to erase you not physically, but from existence, reputation, and stability? That was the unspoken question hanging over Evelyn's head as she folded laundry in Dana's modest living room, while Lily dozed on the couch, wrapped in a soft blue blanket. A week had passed since the courtroom decision. On the surface, life was calm, But Evelyn had grown up in chaos. She knew the stillness before a storm, and the storm arrived. 2 days later, it began with a phone call from her manager at Lucille. The words were quick and clipped. "Don't come in. We're letting you go. Effective immediately." No explanation. Evelyn asked, stunned. "Something about conflicts of interest, PR concerns. That's all I'm allowed to say." She hung up the phone slowly, heart pounding. Her job gone, her only source of income, her anchor. The next hit came in the form of a letter from her nursing school. Her scholarship, which she'd fought so hard to earn, was under revaluation due to character concerns. When she demanded clarification, they pointed her to a gossip blog headline that had been quietly circulated to donors and board members. "Waitress with troubled past manipulates child for custody, insider reveals." It was a smear campaign, subtle, sophisticated, effective. Cassandra Montgomery hadn't disappeared, she'd gone to war. The weight of it pressed in from all sides. Every effort Evelyn had made to rise from her past was now under scrutiny. Her old foster care records were dredged up. Financial struggles, former roommates, even minor workplace complaints were twisted into a narrative. Unstable, unfit, opportunistic. Dana tried to help, reaching out to lawyers, calling in old friends. "We need someone who knows how to handle this level of pressure," she said, pacing the apartment. "This isn't just about Lily anymore. It's about silencing you." Evelyn looked down at her hands, the same hands that once scrubbed dishes until her knuckles bled, the same hands that held Lily's tiny ones through long, uncertain nights. "She thinks I'll walk away if it gets hard. Will you?" Evelyn met her gaze. Never. But staying meant fighting a battle on every front, legally, financially, emotionally, and time wasn't on their side. Lily had begun withdrawing again. She stopped asking to go outside. She clung to Evelyn at night, whispering things in her sleep, things that made Evelyn's heart break. "Don't leave me. Don't let them take me." They needed help. Real help. And that's when Evelyn remembered someone, a customer who'd come into Lucille every Friday night. Older, quiet, well-dressed, but never flashy. He always left generous tips and asked about Evelyn's classes. She remembered one conversation where he mentioned working in law, corporate, mostly, but he'd hinted at pro bono work when the cause was right. She dug through old notebooks until she found his name, James Alcott. She reached out, not expecting much, but to her surprise, he called back the next morning. "I've been following your story," he said, "and I'm not surprised they came. After you like this, that family, they have a long history of burying things. Can you help us?" Evelyn asked, barely breathing. "I can do better than that," he replied. "I can shine a light where they least expect it." Within days, he filed a formal complaint with the Department of Family Services, launching an investigation into Cassandra's treatment of Lily, based on psychological reports, eyewitness testimonies, and the suppression of Dana's custody rights. Simultaneously, he filed a motion to block further interference with Evelyn's employment and education under whistleblower protection laws. But that wasn't all. James had connections in the media, real journalists, the kind who didn't just chase scandals but unearthed truths. 1 week later, a feature appeared on a respected news outlet, Forgotten Voices, the hidden truth behind Lily Montgomery's story. It included interviews with Dana, medical professionals who'd treated Lily, and even other former staff from the Montgomery household, nannies, drivers, tutors who anonymously described Cassandra's neglect and emotional coldness. The story spread like wildfire. This time, Cassandra couldn't control the narrative. Her foundation lost sponsors. Her face disappeared from fashion galas and charity galas. Victor Montgomery, under immense pressure from shareholders, stepped down from 2 company boards. But for Evelyn, it wasn't about revenge, it was about freedom. One night, while cooking dinner, Lily quietly rolled into the kitchen and asked, "Are we going to be okay now?" Evelyn knelt beside her. "Yes, we are. Even if she comes back, she can try, but she can't break us." That night, as Lily fell asleep with Dana reading beside her, Evelyn stepped out onto the fire escape and looked up at the stars. It wasn't over. Cassandra still had power. But now, Evelyn had something stronger: truth, allies, and the unshakable bond between a child and the woman who chose her. Still, one loose thread remained. Victor Montgomery had warned them of secrets, of something deeper than even Cassandra's vengeance. And soon, Evelyn would uncover something that would not only change Lily's future, but rewrite her entire past. because the final chapter of their story hadn't been written yet. It was waiting to be found. What if the truth you fought so hard to uncover wasn't the whole truth? What if the person you protected with everything you had was connected to a secret that could shatter everything? Evelyn had always trusted her instincts. They'd kept her alive in group homes, helped her navigate the minefield of upper-class customers at Lucille, and most importantly, guided her through the emotional terrain of Lily's fragile heart. But something about Victor Montgomery's last words lingered in her mind like smoke in a sealed room. She's going to need that bravery. What had he meant? Cassandra had gone quiet, yes, but not defeated. There was something more. Evelyn felt it deep in her bones. 2 weeks after the article went viral, Evelyn received a manila envelope at the door. No return address. Inside, there was a simple flash drive. No note. Just the weight of something unfinished. She hesitated. Then she plugged it into Dana's laptop. A series of video files loaded. Some were surveillance clips. Others looked like interviews private off the record, dated from years ago. Each was labeled by initials, CMVMDC, and one marked simply, Project Lily. Evelyn played the last one first. The screen flickered. Then came the voice of a woman, Cassandra. She looked younger, colder, her tone clinical. She was never supposed to be mine. Victor's affair produced a child. The woman refused a payout, insisted on raising the girl herself. But then she died car accident. Suspicious circumstances. Victor panicked. If the press found out, it would have ruined us. So we took her in. But I couldn't bond with her. She wasn't mine. She reminded me of everything he did behind my back. The words echoed like thunder. Dana had been wrong. Lily wasn't Cassandra's niece. She was Victor's daughter from another woman, a secret he buried by bringing the child home under false pretenses. And Cassandra hadn't abandoned her out of apathy alone. It was revenge. Evelyn sat frozen, her mind spinning. The betrayal ran deeper than any of them had imagined. But then came the next shock. The last document on the drive was a scanned file from a private investigator, one Victor had apparently hired secretly before his loyalty to Cassandra crumbled. It contained the medical records of the woman who had died in the accident. Her name, Isabel Grace Harris. Evelyn's breath caught in her chest. Harris. She clicked through the attached documents, and it hit her like a bolt of lightning. Isabel was her half-sister. They had the same mother. She remembered the name vaguely. From foster files she'd seen as a teenager, a name that showed up once in a handwritten note left with her baby blanket. For Isabel. If you find her, tell her I'm sorry. All these years, Evelyn and Lily weren't strangers, brought together by fate. They were family. Half-sisters, bound by blood and torn apart by lies. Tears filled Evelyn's eyes as everything fell into place. The inexplicable pull she'd felt toward Lily, way Lily clung to her. The trust, the connection, it wasn't just emotional. It was something rooted deeper than they'd ever known. Evelyn printed every document. She shared the videos with James Alcott, who immediately prepared to file a full report this time, not just against Cassandra, but against the entire cover-up, including the mishandling by social services. Dana was stunned. Do we tell her? Evelyn nodded slowly. Yes, she deserves the truth. Later that evening, as rain tapped against the windows and soft jazz played from an old radio, Evelyn sat beside Lily on the couch. I found out something, she said gently. Something about your mom. Lily turned to her, eyes wide but calm. Okay, she was someone special, brave, kind. She loved you very much, and she was my sister. That means ... you and I. We're sisters too. Lily blinked. Real sisters, Evelyn nodded. Real. A long silence passed. Then Lily threw her arms around Evelyn and whispered, I always knew you were mine. And just like that, the broken pieces aligned into something whole. The legal battles didn't end overnight. Cassandra tried to deny the recordings, but the court had them. Combined with the findings from the investigation, she lost custody rights permanently and faced legal repercussions for fraud and obstruction. Victor, perhaps out of guilt, didn't contest. He stepped away, quietly paying restitution through private funds to child welfare groups. But none of that mattered as much as the moment. 6 months later, when Evelyn stood in front of a judge as a temporary guardian, but as Lily's officially adopted sister and parent, the judge smiled down at them. Do you accept full responsibility for her care, safety, and future? Evelyn looked at Lily, holding her hand, eyes full of hope. With all my heart, she replied, Dana stood in the back row, wiping tears from her eyes. She didn't lose family that day, she gained it. Because family isn't just who you're born to. It's who walks into your life and stays, who fights for you, who sees the real you when no one else does. Lily smiled as they left the courthouse, the spring sun warming their faces. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of the world. And Evelyn, she had lost everything once. But in fighting for Lily, she found not only purpose but a sister, a daughter, and a future worth everything. Sometimes, the deepest pain leads us to the most beautiful discoveries, and sometimes, the people we're meant to find are already waiting for us with open arms. The end.